Hello everyone, this is MC Deck Discussions and I'm OhBSmall, and today we're doing another deck discussion, and this again is for the limited environment draft tournament that we had going on in February. And but this is a bonus game. This game doesn't count at all. I just thought I'd go ahead and, as long as I still had this limited environment, I wanted to try out at least one other hero against one or more of the villains. And so I built another deck for Juggernaut. In this case, it was Cable in leadership, and I called it From X-Force Soldier to Psionic Superpower. Because at first he starts off as an X-Force soldier, and I have some other X-Force characters, allies in here as well. But eventually he becomes this kind of superpower, right? This super powerful character who is a psionic. Once he gets his, which one is it? Well, his side. Oh, it's not actually listed here. Over here, his side scheme, Technovirus, Purge. Then he gets the psionic trait, and he has, extra capabilities at that point, and he gets +1 thwart, +1 ATK, and +1 defense. And so then he's a 3/3/3 instead of his 2/2/2. All right. So just in case you don't know, quickly here, his abilities. Right, he's 12 hit points, hand size of 5 on the hero side, hand size of 6 on the other side. He has this response after Cable defeats a side scheme, ready him. That's limit once per phase. And then on his alter ego side, he's a mutant and a soldier. Oh, on his hero side, he's a soldier and X-Force. He has a recovery of 4 on the alter ego side. And then you may include player side schemes from any aspect in your deck. And he has Soldier X for the setup, search your deck and discard pile for a player side scheme and put it into play. And that should be, somebody can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but that setup's supposed to occur, before you draw your hand size and all that. So you just go ahead and get that set up. Okay. All right. I did look at the most recent rule book, by the way, and that is what it said to do. So if the rules have changed recently, perhaps that's not true, but it was true in the recent rulebook that I saw. Okay. All right. So for the allies, so we have Caliban in here. So I'm going to go ahead and mention the cards that I have in this deck and the purpose for each one. So Caliban, his main purpose is to accelerate Nick Fury coming in, but also he's a psionic, so he can help to contribute to our scimitar. So I might as well mention the upgrades right up front, actually, and so that, because this has an impact over there. So I put Mission Leader in, so reduce the cost to play Mission Leader by 1 if your identity has a soldier trait. So it costs 2 normally, but Cable has a soldier trait on both sides, hero and alter ego side. So it only costs him 1. Hero response: after a side scheme is defeated, exhaust Mission Leader. Each player draws a card. I do have a tendency to forget to draw a card. And then there's also Scimitar, or Scimitar, however it's pronounced. And it's a psionic and weapon. It's restricted and has a hero response and attack. After you play another psionic card, exhaust Scimitar, deal 2 damage to an enemy. And note that it does say you must play it. So in a card like this, that's Make the Call. If I bring a character into play with Make the Call, that would not trigger Scimitar. All right. So first of all, Caliban will trigger that, but also the big driver for the deck, as I've had before, is Nick Fury. And so if I haven't drawn Nick Fury early enough in the game, Caliban can come into play and discard a bunch of cards, get Nick Fury into the discard pile, or at least closer to being drawn. And once he's into this card pile, we can bring him back in with Make the Call. And then Kid Omega has this response: after Kid Omega enters play, choose to either spend an energy resource, deal 1 damage to each enemy, or spend a mental resource and remove 1 threat from each scheme. So he's, of course, useful for all those things. A lot of times I only play him for his 2 cost and don't do the bonus, but in this deck, it was especially easy to get those bonuses, at least get the threat removal bonus, or excuse me, the damage bonus, because of his own resource generator, Gray Malkin, that generates an energy resource. And then M, who's in here really for her main ability, response: after M enters play, defeat a minion with fewer remaining hit points than M. But she also has 3 attack with 2 consequential damage and 2 thwart. with 4 health. Like if you use her just for her thwarting, she could stay out a long time and get rid of do a lot of thwarting. But even without that, the 3 attack is really valuable. So she's just valuable all around, and another psionic. Kid Omega, also a psionic, by the way. Mirage, also a psionic, and is particularly valuable against Juggernaut before he gets to his final stage, because Juggernaut only has 1 scheme. And she has this response: after Mirage enters play, choose an enemy whose scheme is less than Mirage's, thwart, stun that enemy. So she's really nice for that. And once again, a psionic. Then there's Nick Fury, really in here for the card draw. Though against Juggernaut, he can deal a lot of damage. He can actually deal 8 points of damage because he has this ability here: deal 4 damage to an enemy. But Juggernaut, if you have him in his exposed form, then that'll deal 5 damage because Nick Fury is a mental resource. And if he's in Juggernaut's in his exposed form, he gets extra damage from cards that have mental resources on him. And then if he attacks, he'll attack for 2 plus an extra damage, 3 damage. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8 points of damage that he can do against Juggernaut. So a real nice card for that. Pete Wisdom is an X-Force card, and I didn't play him in the current game, but I did play him in the game that I videotaped, that I recorded. But I played 3 games previously to it, and I played him in at least one of those games, and he did work out nicely there, where he can do 2 attack or 2 attack with 1 consequential damage, or 3 thwart with 2 consequential damage. So again, big attack. Only 3 health, but he has this response: after you resolve the when revealed effect of a treachery card, heal 1 damage from Pete Wisdom. Okay. All right, and then Professor X, definitely in here to confuse the villain. And then Sunspot has this response: after you play Sunspot from your hand, choose a player. Oh, and Professor X, once again, has a psionic trait. Okay. Pete Wisdom did not. He's X-Force. Sunspot does not. He's Aerial in X-Force. But has this response, Sunspot does: after you play Sunspot from your hand, it has to be from the hand, choose a player, deal 1 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with the chosen player for each energy resource used to pay for Sunspot. So that tends to be pretty easy to do using Grey Malkin. So there's at least 1 energy resource. But if we have Quinn Carrier in play, then we can do that too. Okay. So we'll get to Quinn Carrier soon enough when we talk about the player side schemes. And then for the events, we have Face the Past. That's really to help with more setup, drawing several cards and readying our hero again. And he tends to be able to get rid of his Strife, who's his nemesis minion. He tends to get rid of him pretty readily, as long as you're careful enough to make sure you're decently set up for it. And then, but especially against Juggernaut, it's pretty darn easy. Okay. Because we also have Hope Summers in play, as a bonus. And then 3 copies of Make the Call, mostly used for Nick Fury, but here and there for other characters. In fact, I did use Make the Call for some other characters in the game that I recorded. And then 3 copies of Noble Sacrifice. That's to help us get some tough status cards and heal up our hero to make him more durable going up against those when Juggernaut has his overkill ability and he starts getting just massive attacks. There was one game when I took 8 damage from one of his attacks and I didn't have a tough status on me, so that was pretty dangerous. And I was actually not as dangerous as it sounds in that particular game because I knew I was safe in that case because I had healed up. I had healed up plenty before that. And then player side schemes that I chose here: build support specifically to get Quinn Carrier in play, because Quinn Carrier can only be played if your identity has the Avenger trait. A resource generator here, but build support, puts that, can let me put Quinn Carrier into play. Call for backup. That's the card that I put that one into play with Cable's ability, like first thing in the game, in order to get started right away on drawing cards using Nick Fury. And then establish perimeter, give us a chance to get an extra tough status card. And we did get a chance to do that in the recorded game. Lock and load to get one of our weapons into play. So either plasma rifle or Scimitar, whichever one makes the most sense, or whichever one is not yet in play. And then our usual 3 double resources, and that's it. So that's the deck. All right. So fun deck to play. Like the riskiest game I had, didn't show that risk, but I very well could have lost the particular game against Juggernaut. And mostly the games went better in my previous games, actually. Overall, this is a good deck against Juggernaut, but also this could be a good deck against, in my opinion, probably against most villains. But that Noble Sacrifice was definitely a key element to this deck, along with getting that Nick Fury card draw so we can get plenty of Noble Sacrifice into play. And I didn't get to do that. And that's part of why this game was probably riskier than my previous games, is because I didn't play Nick Fury as much. He wasn't in the discard pile like for a whole second, go through of my own deck, I think, of the hero deck, identity deck. And so I didn't get Nick Fury coming back again and again, getting Noble Sacrifice in my hand again and again, and keeping us safe. So that was probably a pretty good reason for that. But still, a fun deck to play, and I think a good one to try against Juggernaut and a lot of others. I actually also meant for this deck to be able to go up against Captain America. I think it'd be a really solid deck against Captain America, even in the way that I was playing, where that I can't remember the name of the minion that I put into play at the start of the game, but who makes things very dangerous for your hero. Cable would be able to survive that pretty easily against Captain America, even with the worst minion coming into play right away. All right, so that's it for the deck discussion. Please like and subscribe if you appreciate this kind of content, and I'll catch you in the next one.